It's time for the second talk of the night. So please welcome on stage Kuba Žitný.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for coming. We thought that this is very niche topic and might not interest a lot of people, but I will be trying to persuade you that maybe it's cool for people wherever in career they are, like mid-career ideal, but even for senior engineers, it's interesting path. So, okay. So I'm Jakub. I am senior engineering manager at Deepnote, and I have two goats. I studied here in Prague. I interned at CERN, and slowly from like front-end engineering, web development, and some basic backend stuff, I grew into, well, first just an engineer, early engineer at Deepnote, and now I'm managing our growth team. These are my goats, for real. But yeah, before I dive deeper into the topic, let me just show you what Deepnote is and what we are building. Do you know what who doesn't know what Deepnote is? Okay, most of the people, nice. So who doesn't know what Jupyter Notebook is? Okay, so most of the people know most of the things that are important. So Deepnote is basically trying to build on top of the Jupyter Notebook paradigm, where we combine code and markdown and interactive analytic pieces, charts, dashboards, and so on in one computational medium. So it looks like this, and you can create some nice dashboards there, like in Looker or other BI tools, but at the same time you have access to the low-level Python stuff, you have access to your any number of warehouses, databases, or API connections, or whatever. You can build stuff that are user-facing or for your stakeholders in the company that are not technical. But also you can dive deeper and train your machine learning models or whatever you want to do. I will show some examples of how to interact with our product, but just for now, it's this. Okay, so I want to talk about some example problems that we have been solving at Deepnote, but even in general, many growth teams face similar problems. Some of them are maybe 20, 30, 50 people companies. Some of them are larger, like product board, and some of them are even larger, like Intercom or Dropbox or you name it. Basically, companies like Dropbox have larger function of growth, combination of teams that kind of cover the whole thing that we cover as one team in smaller companies. And then I want to talk about how do we actually manage to do all of these different things in similar processes that normal product teams do. And how do we own or have and struggle to own some of these things. Basically, my message wants to be that it's super cool to be a growth engineer. Maybe you have heard the term 10x engineer. There was a meetup here. I think the CEO of BetterStack was talking about it. Also, you see the ads on Reddit. So anyway, have you heard this? Is anyone proud to be a 10x engineer here? 11x or 10 times 10? Or product engineer, right? Now it's a lot of people talk about this because, AI is coming, so you are afraid whether engineering function will still be useful. So all the other stuff that you should know as an engineer or you should interact with will be even more important than nowadays. Maybe vibe engineer, a lot of juniors, especially at Deepnote, they are vibing everything, and everything else that is not coding is much more important again. So understanding the product, understanding the business value that you are bringing, whether it's in the product or anywhere else, speeding things up, improving the precision of your analytics and so on and so on. All of this basically eventually comes down to being a growth engineer. So for me, a growth engineer is 10x engineer times product engineer to the AI and times 10, right? So basically everything. And I think this is very interesting for people to grow their skills. So if you are in a path where you don't want to just climb the corporate ladder because of politics, but you actually want to learn some things like, oh, I'm a good front-end developer, but I want to know a little bit extra of the backend. I don't know it. You will get to play with some of backend stuff. If you have backend, you can play with more frontend. If you know both, you are full stack, you are pretty cool, pretty confident, but you have never actually worked with the business data, this is where you can connect various pieces of the bigger puzzle. You can build your own map of how your business is actually, earning money, but even if they are not earning money, earning some revenue. So I think this is very cool. So you can grow into the data part, you can grow into the marketing part and business part. So it would be cool. At the end, my last slide will be that we are hiring, so growth engineers. So maybe you can think about it. So okay, I have some examples of. So Dominic was already starting. He was sharing some examples of what they own at product board. Dominic's team owns also pricing. We also own pricing. I have some examples here. So we, of course, own the product analytics, the event tracking, but the product analytics starts to be very interesting when you need to connect it with the marketing analytics. So, people who see our ads come to the product, what do they do? Do they eventually pay? And how do we show more ads to these users if they are, interacting with our feature XYZ or converting to a more expensive plan and so on. So all of this is basically something that should come from growth team. In larger companies, of course, you have a data team, multiple data teams that own different pieces of the puzzle. But from growth team, there should be, the impulse should be, what is the full picture? How do we attribute the value eventually to the business value? So all the data pipelines that are related to this, and the marketing analytics tools. This is not easy. I don't know how many people have interacted with this, but marketing tools are in much different shape than maybe product analytics or engineering tools. So making everything work together is quite interesting. Then of course we are supporting sales team. We are building features in the product. Of course, sign in, onboarding, sign up, SSO, and things like that. But then also things that are causing the growth loops. In one of the last growth engineering or growth meetups here, we were talking about what growth loop is and how does that compound to some valuable product-led growth of the company. So anything that can be growth loop in your product is very important to be driven by growth team. Maybe not necessarily all the different pieces of the actual feature usage or feature functionality, but the big impact or like the wider relationship between the rest of the product. Then of course we have pricing and packaging and billing, which is more, so from my perspective, the billing part is more engineering thing. How do you actually make everything work together and plug and play all the different pieces of your feature set so that the right pricing or pricing tiers have the right features and so on and so on. But then also how do we actually package this and market this and basically do experiments on how this pricing is actually affecting our larger revenue. Then of course some of the integrations, I put asterisk because at Deepnote we are kind of fighting between the PLG and the enterprise motion, right? Do we do more stuff for single users, smaller teams, something that can grow, that can go viral, that students can use and share on their hackathons and so on, versus actually doing some little fake or real custom development for a big company and they give you $1 million. So some of the integrations actually support smaller teams, some of the like Slack integration, but actually Slack can be also quite enterprise. So now how do we decide and who is the final arbiter of what needs to be done? Probably some head of product. And yeah, for example, notifications and other kinds of growth loops. Okay, so engineering, billing, but also marketing. So we are supporting everything that is tech marketing, or martech is the new term that they use. So all of these things are something that, all of these things combine some sort of business perspective on things, a little bit of engineering or a little bit more of engineering, and basically understanding the whole pipeline. So the growth team kind of owns, at least some of the growth teams operate in this pirate model, like acquisition, activation of the customer, then conversion or revenue, and then retention, so ARR, like So basically you need to know what your growth model is. You need to know what lever to pull to increase the final value in the revenue that you have. And growth team should understand what things are driving the levers. Okay, so what time is it? Okay, maybe I can speed this up. So yeah, I wanted to show you two things. So this is how Deepnote looks like. So this is the notebook where you can code. You can connect some integrations, like maybe not our production one, but some integrations. Then you can also upload files. They can be CSVs, You can do some analytics. Now, and you can do this in a collaborative manner. So, or any kind of collaborative tool. That's where the growth team comes. That's where the product-led growth comes, because basically all expansions of your enterprise deals are responsible, or multiple people interacting with your product will cause the expansion of your deal with that company, whether it's a small one or a bigger one, or whether it's a PLG or enterprise, because sometimes it's within one account, one customer that you have, one workspace in our case, or multiple students using something for their homework. Now it's AI powered, so students started paying for stuff. I don't know if you noticed this, but now students pay for things. This was not the case, never. I wouldn't pay $20 for ChatGPT when I was a student, but now they do every month, which is something why we introduced our cheaper pricing as well. And it's pretty successful. It's one of the first hockey sticks that we have at Deepnote. It's still small, but it's very nice pace. So okay, so I wanted to show you that as soon as, for one of the motions in product is when it becomes collaborative, that's where you have so many options to push something in front of people, ideally in the product, but it can be also in emails, in marketing campaigns, and so on and so on. But in product, you can show the value right away, right? You can, for example, you can comment on things in Deepnote. If you comment on things, you can mention people. Maybe these comments are synced with your Slack thread. That's where you can you can bring more people from your company into your product. One example. Another example would be, oh, I am a developer, I'm doing my programming thing. But then once I want to show the values, right, this is data exploration, I want to show something that I explored and found, I can create some data app, or dashboard, or a report. And that's where someone else comes in and learns something in my data. So all of these features should be or can be driven by the growth team. So in our case, not necessarily everything is developed by us. We are a small team now, but we have been larger. Like there was a time where there were 10 people in our growth team, and we were also executing on a lot of product items here. So yeah, I will eventually get to a point where we talk about how to actually structure the work. But this was just some examples in the product. How can you use this kind of big picture in concrete examples in the product? Okay. So process. So sometimes growth team feels like this. So not most of you are from growth, but this is me usually fighting with the big VPs of product, the new heads of marketing, the salespeople. Sometimes there is also like sales versus engineering or product versus engineering in the big companies. This is not good because we are one company. We should all kind of want to drive the revenue or the bigger impact as a group of people. but you know, usually these two have different worldview, what should be done, what brings the value, or these two, right? Marketing is not usually problematic, but in our case, everybody either needs something from us or hates us or loves us. We can be like this as well. And it can be quite difficult to find the time for, oh, we want to develop this extra new feature. Maybe we do it in some A/B testing way, or maybe we do it in some pilot, just show it to 10% of users, see how it changes some sort of behavior of the user, and then we push it fully, then we develop it to 100% and so on and so on. But that can take, so usually product teams would spend 50, 60, 70% of their capacity on something like product roadmap, something that comes from product owner or from VP of product or whatever. We want to execute as a team, we want to contribute to the product growth or product feature set. But then at the same time, sales needs their support so that they see everything that you have in your pipeline, and they want to understand how the bigger deals are using your product so that they can upsell them or threaten them. If you go away or if you don't pay, you know, all of these things are something that you will lose. But then marketing wants new landing page to test out the new feature. And then of course, billing is broken because something special was promised to one customer for lifetime, and it's not handled in our backend anymore. So how do we kind of deal with this situation? This is something that even from managerial perspective is interesting, because how do you actually make growth team perform so that the big people, the leadership, or the VPs or the heads can plan. Okay, our business wants to be somewhere in 6 months, in 12 months, and so on and so on. It's quite hard. So this is kind of my perspective of where we are, but this is the actual reality. So we are trying to be bigger and bigger all the time. So my framework for deciding this is something like this. This is very Deepnote specific right now. We are a Series A company. We raised $25 million in investor VC money a couple of years ago, but we haven't been able to, you know, right now be like one of those 80, 100 ARR million companies that are popular right now, like Lovable, Bolt, and so on and so on. So we still have work to do, but we already decided that we will do a little bit of PLG and a little bit of enterprise. So from growth perspective, we promised on paper, or like in theory, that 25% of our work will be sales support. That means we don't have so much time for the actual product roadmap. So in some sense, product roadmap and experiments are one thing. So we consider our experiments to be product roadmap worthy. But if we kind of separate it, we do a little bit more of the product work and some of the experiments. Sometimes the experiments are landing pages, but sometimes they're exactly in product A/B tests or some sort of new behavior on, you know, for upselling and so on and so on, promoting some integrations, promoting some sort of usage that we want from users. And then some 15% of maintenance. This doesn't add up to 100%. This is intentional. This is my shout out to Marian Kamenišťák. So he says only 80%. You only fill into 80% of your sprint or cycle or whatever time period you work with, so that you have those extra 20% for vacations and delays and people wanting to, you know, rewrite little piece of code base. So this is where I only keep the 10%. So and sometimes 0, because we don't know how to say no to these big people over here, right? So, okay, I should speed up because I promised I won't be talking too much. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of repeat this series of things that we own. And by owning, I don't mean we do something about product analytics, or we do something about onboarding, or we do something about growth loops, but we know what it means that some of these things are working or not, and we can prove it with data. And this is the most important part in growth, that everything should be data-driven, and everything should be like, you don't forget about the last 20%. I'm not saying we do that, but like successfully in all of the cases, but this is what we strive for, and this is what every like team, but also every engineer should strive for. So as a growth engineer, I'm kind of proud to understand the wider context of all of these things and everything else in our company. Of course, the larger the company, the harder it is to understand everything, but the more you understand, the more you can have, you know, the peace of mind that little bit of thing that I do is actually making an impact. So, yeah, I have some example opinions from two people from LinkedIn. So Ben Stencil is founder of Mode. It's a BI tool similar to, it's not really a direct competitor of Deepnote, but someone that we consider very interesting. Ben Stencil is pretty well aware of the data world that we have nowadays, and he also reacted to this vibe coding trend. So a lot of people are like, yeah, 90% of everything will be vibe coded in 1 year or by the end of this year or whatever. Dario from Anthropic said that, and some other people as well. And I think, so our CEO said that also in YC, most of the startups are treating most of the code base as, you know, vibe codable or AI assisted. But this is where all the other things that engineers do will be more valuable. So understanding the product, understanding the data, being able to connect the dots, and so on and so on. And high quality of the software that we want to build will be affected by the high quality engineers that you have. So if you want to be one of these, please join me or come work to a company where these things are supported. Elena Verna, again, she also started using this growth engineering term more and more in recent months, and she also suggests that the growth engineer function is more and more important as we will go through this AI wave. Okay, so I have some resources that are very interesting if you are curious about this topic. So there is a Reforge course on growth engineering. There is blog post with a lot of interesting links on the Pragmatic Engineers blog. There are some AI things that I would like to share. So recently I was listening to Lenny's podcast with Anton Osika from Lovable or Eric Simmons from Bolt, or the more hardcore ones by Lex Friedman, Jan LeCun from Facebook. Also, he's the original author of CNNs, and Dario from Anthropic. So please have a listen. And then there are some interesting people to follow. Of course, Elena Verna, she's the PLG mastermind on LinkedIn, very popular, but also very like down to earth and actually able to contribute to something that you are working with. Alexei is growth engineer. He has very good content. Orgege Orosz, he is the author of this Pragmatic Engineer blog. This is very interesting if you are curious about how you can advance your career. He's approaching it from very different angles. He has experience from larger companies, enterprises, but also startups, and talks to a lot of people. So yeah, please give him a follow. It's very interesting content. Okay, so my message wanted to be that growth engineering is cool, and we are hiring growth engineers. So if you want to join Deepnote and work on some of these interesting topics that I mentioned, I would be happy to talk to you, and it could be cool. So thank you. So there is a question: how big is your growth team? How do you maintain so many domains of ownership? So this was one of the slides that I ended up deleting because there were some information that are not really shareable. But so basically Deepnote was growing. At the peak, we were over 70 people. Then we shrink a little bit. And in the meantime, growth team was growing because at the point where we were kind of reconsidering our sales and marketing strategy, US versus Czechia, that's where kind of the growth team grew into the big impact. So at the beginning, it was just me and some product engineers that sometimes gave me some, hand with something. Then we grew to team of three. Then we were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then we were again 4. Right now we are 5. And how do we maintain so many domains? Well, small company, so you have to pick the priorities. So sometimes something is not perfect. For example, in our case, so we are also data startup, so we are trying to follow the best practices on how to work with data, how to have clean data, how to have good data pipelines, and so on and so on. We don't. So we have all the bits and pieces like DBT and everything in place, but we don't really use it perfectly because for now, we don't really need to clean the data because everybody who knows the data already knows the details of the dirty parts of the data. So we basically maintain the dirty data and produce some dashboards for the leadership, which could be improved, of course. So this is not perfect, so that's how we maintain it. We basically pick the battles that are most important. And this kind of reprioritization happens basically every week, but we operate in the shape-up model. So this is 6 weeks plus 2 weeks, 3 weeks in our case of cooldown. This is the methodology by Basecamp. And yeah, so basically all of these 6 weeks are kind of a roadmap that we try to respect. How do you fight back when there is always another priority, so you have time for experiments? Do you strictly follow max percentage of maintenance capacity? No, we don't, but I will get there. So how do we fight back? We try to fight back with data. It's very hard. So I was trying to calculate at one point how successful I am with fighting back, and it was 20% of time, but it's still more than 0. So I'm happy. With the big leadership, of course, when CEO comes and they want you to do this particular thing right now, it's very hard with the data and the reasons and all the implications that are mentioned. It's not like, I won't do this, just fire me. You don't say that. So usually you find some way to do something, but sometimes the pushback is possible. So how do I approach it? With data, with kind of reiteration of our values and how did we build our current priorities and what are we trying to achieve. People maybe in the sales team don't always know the bigger or don't always realize the bigger picture. If they are just about to close this one deal and this one particular thing will be, 1 more million of ARR for us, perfect. So usually it's not just like that, and usually they forget at this moment, they forget the rest of the picture. So remind this picture to them. So this is one, and yeah, have the data and have the basically persuasion of the bigger picture that you have. But again, it's still just 20% of time you succeed. Maybe you are more successful. And do you strictly follow max percentage? No, we don't. It's hard, and basically, this is something that I personally do at the beginning, and it kind of shifts during the cycle. So in our case, it's very different than the hardcore Scrum. The hardcore Scrum with all the ceremonies, with the 2 weeks or 1 week sprints, and sometimes, God forbid, even a Scrum Master. This is more kind of set in stone, and you really, really try to follow and predict the capacity of the team. In our case, we have 6 weeks, which is much larger, and basically it's not always possible to strictly follow that. Yeah. So I haven't found a way, but this is a framework where you start and it helps you build the picture of how to fill the sprint or cycle or whatever you have. Okay? Anything else?
Yeah, for the last.
Okay. Oh, okay, all right. All right. Hi, online people. You said those other guys like marketing, product, and sales, they might love you or hate you. I don't know if you were joking about hate you, but why would those guys might hate you?
So I don't think it's like actual hate. It's more like love and hate in a way that sales team, for example, usually they have their own metrics that they want to follow. But in some companies, in our case also, it's not the whole picture. Like it's not everything that exists. But for them it is. So they are trying to hit their goals. And then there is marketing. So they are also trying to hit their goals. And so some companies have like marketing engineering and they have their own engineers and they can do, they can build new landing pages or whatever they want, whatever they need, just like this. But if they don't have it, in our case, they need it from us. But we have this other capacity. So they are blocked on all these creative things that they just want to try that will teach us a lot about the market. But now the engineer is just fixing some sort of a billing bug, but I want a new landing page, right? So they have their own priorities, but they don't have the support, in our case, from us. But even if we had dedicated teams, there would still be some sort of prioritization between the business ideas and the engineering capacity or the prepared product features. This is everywhere, even outside of growth. Product versus engineering. Like the product, the product wants 5 new features, but engineering cannot deliver because there is tech debt, or maybe there is some sort of large migration going on this quarter, and it's not possible to deliver. So this the same thing, but it's not 2D, like product versus engineering, but it's like 4D because you have all these different competing priorities. So if you don't give them what they need, they hate you. Well, they don't really hate you, but you know what I mean. So this is what I meant.
I see. Okay, thank you. And if I may, another question. This idea of growth engineering, I didn't know about it before today, and I don't know exactly how you entered into this role. I don't know how intuitive it is for everyone here. How did you feel about it, and how do you feel about it now? Is it something that should be felt normally as very positive, something that everyone should do? Why isn't everyone doing? Or it takes some like background or getting used to, and you have gotten to appreciate the positiveness of it, but may not be so easy for other people?
Yeah, thanks. This is a really good question. Almost like I would make it myself, but even better. So I have a really good answer. Of course, nothing is for everyone. Everybody builds their own thing, own path in life, not just career. So you as a person, you are always responsible for what do you want to do and what you will decide doing. But what I think is sexy about this is the combination of things that make you understand the impact that you are doing. So I think, and most of the good engineers that I know, not growth, but in general engineers, are really, what drives them is the impact. Whether it's eventually revenue of your company, or if it's a small startup, big success, you go out and you go to US and then maybe you sell the company for a couple of $1 billion, right? Like Product Board is trying to do. So I don't know. I just think they want to be unicorn. They are. And this is driving your motivation. This is driving your everything that you do every day. And the more of the non-engineering things you do, the more you understand. But if this is for everyone, I think it's for more people than the people realize, because this impact is really something that can prevent your burnout or something, right? You have a bad boss and they want something stupid from you, and you don't understand, but you want to keep the job, and this leads to burnout and other things as well, maybe overworking and stuff like that. But if you actually understand what you want, and of course you manage your own kind of personal growth and the professional growth, and you have good friends and everything, or family, this is also a crucial piece, understanding what you can do. But in bigger and bigger and bigger company, maybe the impact is not necessarily directly on revenue, but it's still impact on maybe some other teams that you are supporting, and their success is your success, and so on and so on. So I think this is very interesting, and any full stack engineer is welcome to try. But maybe some people like really don't want to work with data, or don't want to stop doing something that they started but it's not working, right? So they don't have to do that. But yeah, but I think it's pretty sexy.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. You were talking about conflict of interests, and that all teams should work together to make impact. And it seems to me, at least, that you are very much aware of who understands, or at least you seem to understand who understands what. So I guess my question is, what is the connection between misunderstandings and visibility of who understands whom and who doesn't understand whom, to everything else? And how do you deal? How are you sitting in between?
You mean in more like, not like personal level, but the team's understanding? Like one team is trying to do something, another team, and these motions? Or like individual people in those teams?
Yeah, I think it's, in my mind at least, it's individuals understanding each other, and then it accumulates, and at some point they get some shared understanding between themselves that conflict on the team level. And all those understandings and misunderstandings usually, I guess, are not very visible to everybody. And it seems, I don't know, but maybe part of your job is to uncover them and make sure to facilitate them. How do you think about the importance of the issue of uncovering this, making it more visible, and dealing with this?
This is a very interesting topic, yeah. I think it's not really related to growth as a growth, but more manager thing, right? So every manager of one team and the higher manager of multiple teams, I think this is one of the crucial things that they should do, is make sure, well, first of all, just notice and detect these misunderstandings, but then make sure there is some aligned, ideally metric that you can report on and show in data. But this is not always possible when you are talking about, new product feature, right? But usually, I think most of the things are measurable. Even product things, even creative things, if they are about to bring some value, you can measure something about them. So I have a data background, so I really believe that data can help you understand, or the language that you use when you use data is easier to understand for multiple different parties with multiple different backgrounds or contexts, right? Maybe one developer sees something, but some other people see much more. So having some common way to represent the things that we care about is one important thing. I think this is important for every manager to do, especially, or at least in engineering, product, and startups and tech, let's say. But I think everywhere. But even more important is, or another thing that I think, and this is no framework, this is just my opinion, is that this will always be shitty. Always you will have to go and again and again communicate, over communicate everywhere in all these directions, so that you ensure that there is a common understanding. Because even if you write something and you consider all the information to be there, maybe someone misrepresents it or doesn't read it or reads it while, you know, driving or something, and so you need to do it again, and then something happens and you are slowed down, and then you need to do it again. So I think this is, and I'm maybe someone, I am not manager for that long, but like I think this is forever and this will be forever.
Right.
Being able to work with this is just something that you will have to live with, and you will never like fix it. You will always just fix it for a while, and then you need to fix it again. So this is my kind of observation, but I don't know if maybe we can talk about it afterwards. Whether goats are a result of a burnout? No. So I always wanted to have. This is funny story. Maybe I can end with that. So I got a referral bonus because I brought the 2 best engineers that I have ever worked with to Deepnote. So I got a coupon for a goat. This was very early, you know, not a corporate thing. So yeah, and then the second goat is a kit of the first goat. So now I have 2. And I believe, and this is again not really techie, but I believe like this connection with nature is important for you in general, and this is for preventing a burnout. So whenever I finish working, I shut down the computer, and then I have to feed them, for example, and that's a prevention of burnout. So yeah, but we'll see. I hope this will work. So far, I don't think I have burned out. Cool. Let's drink some beer. Okay. Thank you, and thanks everyone.